If you have a Twitter or Facebook account, take 10 seconds and donate a retweet or Facebook share to the David Pakman Show by going to donateyouraccount.com/David Pakman Show. It'll take 15 seconds, I promise. Okay, here's something interesting. We sometimes hear about people like the Westboro Baptist Church calling for the death penalty for gay people. It's less common that we hear actual Republican candidates for office calling for it, but that's exactly what Scott Esk says would be in accordance with biblical law. Scott Esk is a Republican candidate for House District 91 State Representative in Oklahoma. On his website, he calls himself a conservative who wants to apply biblical principles to Oklahoma law. That is always a red flag. Last summer, Esk posted to Facebook the following about stoning gay people to death. Quote, "I think we would be totally in the right to do it. That goes against some parts of libertarianism, I realize, and I'm largely a libertarian, but ignoring as a nation things that are worthy of death is very remiss." I'm really glad to hear that Scott Esk is not so fixated on his juvenile libertarian ideology that it prevents him from accepting that based on his biblical ideology, they should be stoning gays to death. I'm glad that both of those worldviews, Lewis, can exist together for Scott Esk.
I think really the sky's the limit here. Anything's possible with this guy. I'd like to think he stands no chance, but we'll have to keep our eyes on this one.
Rob Morris is the editor of More Monthly Magazine and themoredaily.com, which are Oklahoma-related publications, and he called Scott Esk to ask him about it, and he quotes Scott Esk as saying, "Well, what I will tell you right now is that was done in the Old Testament under a law that came directly from God. And in that time, it was totally just. It came directly from God. I have no plans to, reinstate that law in Oklahoma. I do have some very huge moral misgivings about those kinds of sins." Well, that's nice. Scott Esk, if you were thinking of voting for him, maybe, even though he doesn't like gay people who are living in sin, as he says, and he thinks that it would be totally justified to stone gay people to death, he doesn't plan on doing it. Of course, remember that Deuteronomy 21 says that you should also stone to death children if they don't behave well and rebel. It's interesting how Christians don't seem to care about Deuteronomy 21 and stoning children to death, but the stoning gays to death thing is something that they're all they're really interested in that. Could there be, Lewis, some selective application and cherry picking of so-called biblical doctrine here?
David, impossible. That never happens. What are you talking about?
Yeah, if you say that the Bible is your guide, then it needs to fully be your guide, not just the parts that you think are convenient or might let you raise some money on the backs of bigots.